Aliens' final warning. Do not attack humans. They will burn empires to dust. Part 1. The chamber was dark, filled with heavy air and the smell of old metal. Dozens of alien leaders sat on tall chairs, their eyes glowing, their voices low, and their pride unshaken. They had gathered from across the galaxy, each representing empires that had lasted for thousands of years. They were strong, they were powerful, and they believed they were untouchable. In the center of the chamber stood an old alien, his scales faded and scarred, his voice hoarse but steady. He had seen war, more war than anyone in that room, and he carried the memory of it in his broken body. He raised his clawed hand and spoke slowly, his words heavy with fear. "Do not attack the humans," he warned. "Do not provoke them, for they will burn your empires to dust." Laughter filled the chamber, cruel and sharp. Some leaders banged their fists on the table, others hissed with amusement. To them, humans were nothing more than a young species, new to the stars, untested in real war. They thought the warning was nothing but weakness from an old fool. The elder did not smile. He did not laugh. He only looked at them with tired eyes. "You think them weak because they are new," he said, "but you do not understand their fire." He told them of the first time his people fought against humans. His voice cracked as he described the battle. "We outnumbered them 3-1, he said. "Our fleets were vast, our weapons far stronger. But when the battle began, the humans did not flee, they did not surrender. They fought with madness in their eyes. They fought as if death was nothing. They turned their ships into weapons, ramming into us, burning with us, destroying both sides." The chamber grew quieter, though many still shook their heads in disbelief. The elder stepped forward, his body trembling but his voice clear. "I saw a single human ship destroy a war cruiser by tearing itself apart. I saw human soldiers laugh as they bled, refusing to fall until they took 10 of us with them. They do not fight for empire. They do not fight for glory. They fight because they refuse to kneel." Some alien leaders hissed in annoyance. One rose and shouted, "Lies, all lies. Humans are insects, nothing more." Another slammed his weapon on the ground and declared that humans could never match the power of ancient empires. The pride of the room was heavy, choking, unbreakable, yet not everyone laughed. In the shadows of the chamber, some younger leaders whispered to each other, their eyes filled with unease. They had heard the same rumors across the stars. Stories of human fleets vanishing only to strike back twice as hard. Stories of colonies that fought with teeth and fire until invaders fled. Stories of entire armies breaking before the will of a single human commander. The elder spoke again, his voice now a whisper, but one that carried through the entire chamber. "You do not fear them yet because you have not lost to them, but you will, and when you do, your pride will not save you. They are not the strongest, but they are the most dangerous. Because when you take everything from them, they do not die quietly. They burn, and they take you with them." The laughter had grown softer, replaced by uneasy silence. But the largest of the alien rulers stood, his massive frame covered in golden armor. He raised his hand, and the chamber fell still. His voice was deep and filled with arrogance. "We are the coalition. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. No new species will frighten us. We will strike the humans, we will crush them, and their worlds will kneel before us." The old alien closed his eyes. He knew his words were wasted on ears deafened by pride. Still, he spoke one last time, his voice breaking but strong. "I beg you, do not do this. Do not make the same mistake we did, for humans are the fire that will consume you." But the chamber roared with approval for war. Leaders rose to their feet, shouting, declaring their fleets ready. The decision was made, the course was set, and the first steps toward disaster were taken that very night. Outside, the galaxy spun on, unaware of the storm that was about to come. But in the shadows of the elder's mind, the memories of fire. Screams and burning ships would never fade. He knew what awaited them. He had seen it before. He had lived it. And he knew that the galaxy would soon learn the truth. Humans were not to be provoked, for when cornered, when threatened, they would not simply fight, they would burn empires to dust. The decision was made, and the coalition of alien empires did not waste time. They wanted to strike before humanity could gather strength. They wanted to show the galaxy that humans were nothing but insects. Their fleets moved like shadows across the void, armed with weapons that had crushed dozens of civilizations before. At the edge of known space, near a quiet star, there was a human outpost. It was small, nothing more than a refueling station and a listening post, the aliens believed. It would be an easy victory, a perfect first strike. They thought they would wipe it out in minutes and then spread fear across Earth's colonies. The fleet that came was vast, hundreds of alien warships, sleek and glowing with deadly light. Their commanders sat in golden chairs, smiling, certain of victory. They did not bring their largest weapons, for they thought they would not need them. Why bring hammers to crush ants, they thought. When a single step is enough, the human outpost was silent at first. Its scanners detected the fleet, alarms blared, and young soldiers scrambled to their stations. They knew they were outnumbered, they knew they were surrounded, yet none of them ran, none of them surrendered. Instead, they prepared for war, and the bridge of the outpost's main station stood Commander Harris. His uniform was worn, his eyes sharp, and his voice steady. He looked at the screen where alien ships filled the stars. He knew what was coming. He knew the odds. And still he stood tall. "Signal Earth," he ordered. "Tell them we've been found." The message was sent, but no help would arrive in time. The aliens cut through communications, surrounding the outpost. The human soldiers looked at each other, young faces pale but determined. Some whispered quiet prayers, others checked their rifles again and again. They were ready to fight, even if it meant death. The alien commander, a massive being covered in metallic plates, laughed as he gave the order. "Burn the station to ash," he said. "Show the galaxy that humans are nothing." The fleet opened fire. Blue and green beams sliced through the void, tearing into human defenses. Explosions lit up the black sky, fragments of metal drifting into nothingness. But the humans fired back. Their weapons were weaker, smaller, but every shot was aimed with desperate precision. One alien cruiser burst into flames. The commander snarled in disbelief. How could a simple outpost destroy one of his ships? It was supposed to be impossible. Then something even stranger happened. A human dropship, already damaged and on fire, turned toward the alien flagship. Instead of retreating, instead of fleeing, it accelerated. Its engines roared as it slammed into the side of the alien ship. The explosion lit the void like a second sun. Both ships were gone, consumed in fire. The alien commander's eyes widened in shock. "Madness!" he whispered. "They destroyed themselves!" He had fought hundreds of wars. He had seen thousands of enemies, but never had he seen a species that chose to die just to take their enemies with them. More human ships followed. One by one, they charged into battle with reckless fury. They fought not with the cold precision of machines, but with the fire of living beings who refused to fall. They used every trick, every trap, every desperate move they could imagine. They turned broken ships into weapons, mines into bombs, even debris into shields. The alien fleet destroyed the outpost, but at a terrible cost. 20 of their warships were gone, dozens more crippled. The victory they expected in minutes stretched into hours of bloody fighting, and in the end, the humans left the aliens. With nothing but wreckage and fear, the coalition retreated, humiliated. Their commanders shouted at each other, blaming, raging, refusing to admit what had happened. But the truth could not be hidden. Whispers spread across the galaxy like wildfire. The humans had been outnumbered, outgunned, and still they had fought like demons. Still they had made the mighty coalition bleed in the great council chamber where the war had first been declared. Silence now reigned. The leaders of the coalition sat uneasy. Some tried to downplay the reports, calling them exaggerated, but others looked at the numbers, at the fleets lost, and they could not laugh, for the old aliens' words now echoed. In their minds, do not attack the humans, for they will burn your empires to dust. Meanwhile, on the human colony worlds, the story spread with pride. Parents told their children of the brave soldiers who had stood against impossible odds. Songs were written, statues raised, and the people prepared, for they knew this war was only beginning, and they would not bow. On Earth, the leaders of humanity met in their great halls. They looked at the reports of the destroyed outpost. Their faces were grim, but their eyes burned with the same fire as their soldiers. They knew what had to be done. They would not wait for the coalition to strike again. They would fight, and they would make the galaxy understand the cost of waking the human spirit. Far across the stars, in the dark of his prison, the old alien elder sat alone. His own people had locked him away for speaking fear. But he smiled, even through the pain, for he knew the truth. The humans had been provoked. The fire had been lit, and soon the galaxy would learn what he had always known. Empires that rose against humans would not stand. They would fall one by one until all who had mocked them were nothing but dust. The flames of the outpost battle had not yet cooled, and already the galaxy trembled. What was meant to be a display of alien strength had turned into a whisper of human fury. Fleets that once mocked humanity now spoke their name with unease. Yet the coalition could not accept shame. They could not allow weakness to show. So they gathered again, plotting revenge. The plan was simple, at least in their minds. They would strike at a human colony world, not a mere outpost, but a thriving settlement. If they crushed a colony, they would crush human spirit. If they enslaved the survivors, they would make Earth kneel. It was arrogance that guided them, not wisdom. The chosen target was New Carthage, a planet rich with rivers and iron mountains. It was not Earth, but it was dear to humanity, filled with families, miners, builders, and dreamers. The coalition fleet moved like a storm, hundreds of ships descending, their banners bright with pride. They believed this would be the victory they were owed. They believed humans would finally understand their place. But when they arrived, they found something unexpected. The people of New Carthage did not run. They did not kneel. Instead, they armed themselves. Farmers grabbed rifles, miners carried drills that could pierce stone, engineers turned machines into weapons. Even children carried messages and supplies. Every human on the planet was ready to fight. Commander Reyes, leader of the colony's defense, stood before her people. Her armor was scratched, her hair tied back, her voice sharp and steady. "They think we are weak," she said. "They think we will surrender, but they do not know us." She raised her weapon high, and the crowd shouted as one, "We will not bow." When the coalition landed, they expected panic. They expected cries of surrender. Instead, they met fire. Traps exploded beneath their machines. Ambushes struck from the cliffs. Humans fought in streets, in mines, in rivers. Every house became a fortress, every alley a battlefield. The aliens were stronger, their weapons brighter, their numbers greater, but humans fought with something the aliens had never seen. They fought with unity, with stubbornness, with a fury born of survival, and the coalition began to break. On the second day of battle, an alien general demanded the humans surrender. He broadcast his voice across the colony. "Lay down your arms, or we will destroy everything you love," he thundered. But Reyes only smiled, her voice carried back through every channel. "Destroy it then! We will rebuild! Destroy us then, and our brothers will come! We do not kneel!" The aliens tried to strike harder. They burned fields. They shattered buildings. They thought destruction would break human spirit, but it only fueled the fire. The more they destroyed, the more humans fought. The galaxy watched as news spread. Images of miners standing against tanks, children dragging wounded soldiers to safety, families fighting side by side. It was not just war. It was defiance, and it was terrifying. The coalition began to realize the truth. These were not soldiers alone. These were an entire people who refused to die. Every loss only sharpened their will, every wound only hardened their spirit, and whispers spread again. The old aliens' warning had not been madness. It had been prophecy. Reinforcements finally came from Earth. A fleet of human warships appeared on the horizon of stars. They were fewer than the alien fleet, smaller, less advanced. But when they charged with reckless courage. They tore through enemy lines, colliding with ships, firing until their weapons burned. They fought not as machines of war, but as men and women who knew what was. At stake, the aliens, unprepared for such fury, began to retreat one by one. Their ships turned and fled, leaving wreckage behind. The battlefield was a graveyard of fire and twisted metal. But New Carthage still stood, bruised, bloodied, but unbroken. The coalition leaders raged when they heard. They threw chairs, smashed weapons, and screamed at their commanders. How could ants defy giants? How could humans turn defeat into victory? But deep inside, even the proudest felt the shadow of fear, for this was not just one battle. This was a warning. Humans would never surrender. And if pushed, they would fight until empires burned. Across neutral worlds, whispers grew into voices. Traders told stories of humans who would rather die than kneel. Smugglers carried tales of colonies that fought armies with bare hands. Leaders of other species began to question the coalition. Perhaps the war against humans was not a war at all. Perhaps it was a fire that could consume the galaxy. In a hidden cell, the old alien elder smiled again. Though beaten, though forgotten, he knew the truth. The coalition had struck the spark, and now the inferno would rise. He whispered to himself in the dark, "They will learn. Oh yes, they will learn. The humans will not bow. The humans will burn them all." And above New Carthage, as the smoke cleared and the stars shone again, human flags waved from ruined towers, families embraced, soldiers stood tall. They had survived, they had fought, and they had proven once more what the galaxy refused to believe, that humans were not prey, not weak, not fragile. They were fire, and they were only just beginning to burn. The stars over New Carthage were still filled with drifting wreckage when the human fleet returned home. They carried survivors, broken ships, and the scars of a battle that should have destroyed them. Instead, it had turned into something else. It had become proof that humanity would not break, proof that humans could fight against empires that had ruled for ages. But Earth was not satisfied with survival. The leaders gathered in their great hall, their faces pale but their voices burning with fire. They looked at the losses, they looked at the scars, and they made their choice. They would no longer wait for attacks. They would no longer sit in silence and hope the storm would pass. The time had come to strike back. The first raids began in the shadows of space. Small human fleets slipped into alien supply lines. They attacked convoys with precision and fury. They destroyed fuel depots, seized food transports, and left empty. Wreckage behind, the coalition, bloated with pride, could not understand it. How could humans, with so few ships, strike at so many places? But the humans were clever. They moved in silence. They used broken satellites to hide their signals. They turned captured alien tech into traps. A convoy commander once laughed when he saw only 2 human ships, but by the time his fleet reacted, mines hidden in the asteroid field tore them apart. The humans had turned the battlefield itself into a weapon. Fear began to spread. Coalition soldiers whispered in the dark. They spoke of human warships that appeared like ghosts. They spoke of convoys that vanished into flames. They spoke of captains who destroyed their own ships just to take enemies with them. The whispers grew, and soon even the proudest officers carried unease in their hearts. In the council chambers of the coalition, arguments raged. Some demanded more fleets, more power, more fire to crush the humans. Others begged to stop the war before it was too late. But pride ruled the chamber. No empire wanted to admit weakness. No leader wanted to bow before a young species. So they pressed on, blind to the danger that grew with every human victory. One night, far beyond the rim, a coalition fleet of 30 ships faced a single human warship. The alien admiral laughed. His fleet outnumbered the humans 30-1, but the human ship did not run. It charged. Missiles blazed, guns roared, engines screamed. It weaved between fire, striking weak points, tearing into the larger fleet. When the end came, the human ship detonated its reactor at point-blank range. The explosion consumed everything. When the fire faded, 20 coalition ships were gone. One human ship had erased them all. The story spread faster than light. Entire armies began to fear a single human warship. Recruitment for the coalition slowed. Deserters multiplied. Neutral species watched in silence. Some began to whisper that perhaps siding with humans was safer than standing against them. The galaxy shifted, slowly, like a tide no one could stop. On Earth, children learned the names of fallen heroes. Songs were sung of the ships that never returned. Families lit candles for those lost, but their grief only became fuel. Every tear turned into fire, every scar into steel. Humanity was not just fighting back. They were evolving. They learned from every battle, adapted to every weapon, and returned stronger each time. The coalition did not understand this. They were empires, used to victory, used to enemies bowing after one defeat. But humans were not like that. Defeat only sharpened them. Pain only hardened them. Every time the coalition thought they had crushed human spirit, they found it burning brighter than before, in the ruins of a captured alien base. Commander Reyes stood tall. Her armor was scarred, her eyes fierce. She looked at her soldiers, tired but unbroken. "This is not the end," she said. "This is the beginning. We will strike again, harder, faster, until they learn what it means to awaken a human." And they did. Human fleets began coordinated strikes, not just raids, but full assaults. They targeted shipyards, supply hubs, and weapon factories. Entire coalition fleets were crippled before they even launched. The aliens were forced to fight on ground they never chose, at times they never expected. It was a war of shadows, and humans were the masters of it. The galaxy trembled. What was once prideful arrogance became silent dread. Every alien commander knew that somewhere out there, humans were waiting, waiting with fire, waiting with fury, waiting with the madness of a species that refused to die. The old alien elder, still locked in his dark cell, heard the guards whisper. He closed his eyes and listened. "They say the humans have burned half a fleet in a single battle," one whispered. "They say the humans do not fear death," said another. The elder smiled, his broken body shaking with quiet laughter. "I warned them," he whispered to himself. "I told them the fire was coming, and now it burns." And still, the humans pressed forward, not with endless armies, not with overwhelming power, but with will, with cunning, with the refusal to surrender. They had turned the tide, and now, for the first time, the coalition began to realize something they had never believed possible. They could lose. The galaxy had not seen such fire in centuries. Stars that once shone peacefully now burned above battlefields, their light mixed with explosions and drifting wreckage. Humanity was no longer waiting, no longer hiding. They were striking again and again, turning the war into something the Coalition had never expected. The Coalition had believed their size was enough. Their fleets spanned sectors. Their armies filled worlds. They had crushed countless species before, but against humanity, their numbers became nothing. Every ship they sent was hunted. Every army they raised was broken. Human fleets grew bolder. They no longer struck only in shadows. They faced the Coalition head-on, their ships smaller, weaker, yet faster, sharper. They fought like wolves, surrounding prey much larger than themselves, and when one fell, the others struck harder until the prey was gone. The Coalition responded with fury. They called upon every empire in their ranks. They forged the largest fleet in history. Thousands of ships, each armed with weapons that could shatter moons. It was meant to be the final blow, the crushing strike that would erase humanity forever. The fleet moved toward the human colonies with confidence. Its admirals boasted that the war would end in a single battle. They laughed at the fear that spread through their lower soldiers. They believed pride would shield them from fire, but pride does not stop bullets. Pride does not stop humans. When the Coalition fleet arrived near Vega Prime, they found the humans waiting, a smaller fleet, less than one-third their size. But the humans did not flee. They charged. Engines roared, missiles screamed, beams of fire lit the black void. The battle began. It was chaos. Alien ships fired in waves, tearing through space, but the humans wove between them, striking with precision. One human frigate slipped under a cruiser, detonating its weapons at close range. The explosion tore the cruiser in half. Another human destroyer lured 3 enemy ships into a minefield, sacrificing itself to set off the trap. The firestorm that followed consumed all 4 ships. Admirals of the Coalition screamed in disbelief. Their tactics were breaking, their formations shattering. Every time they thought they had cornered the humans turned the trap against them. The sky was filled with burning wrecks, the stars drowned in smoke. On the surface of Vega Prime, the war raged as well. Alien armies landed, tens of thousands of soldiers marching in shining armor. They expected fear. Instead, they found streets turned into fortresses. They found civilians standing beside soldiers, rifles in hand. They found fire in every window, every alley, every field. The aliens advanced, but every step cost them blood. Miners collapsed tunnels to bury tanks. Children carried ammunition to the front lines. Old men and women aimed rifles with steady hands. Every human fought as if the world itself belonged to them. And it did. Commander Reyes led from the front, her armor dented, her rifle glowing red from fire. She shouted through smoke, "They think they can crush us with numbers. Let's show them what numbers mean when humans fight." Her soldiers roared with her, and they charged. Not back, not away, but forward, straight into the enemy. The Coalition had never faced such madness. To them, war was calculation, statistics, cold precision. But to humans, war was personal. Every death was fire. Every scar was steel. They turned pain into fuel, and they burned brighter with every loss. On the 5th day of the battle, the Coalition fleet broke. Admirals who once swore humans were weak now begged for retreat. Ships fled in panic. Armies pulled back. The largest fleet in galactic history shattered by humans who refused to kneel. The news spread like a virus. Empires that once mocked humans now sat in silence. Neutral species whispered, "If humans could break such a fleet, what else could they do? Were they demons? Were they gods? Or were they something worse? Something unstoppable?" The Coalition tried to hide the truth. They silenced soldiers, burned reports, erased transmissions. But fear cannot be silenced. Fear spread faster than fire, and soon even the strongest empires felt it in their bones. On Earth, humanity buried. It's dead. Tears were shed. Names were carved into stone. But with every funeral, more soldiers rose. With every loss, more ships were built. The war had not weakened humanity. It had forged them. In the dark cell of his prison, the old alien elder heard the guards whisper again, "They say the Coalition's great fleet is gone," one said. "They say humans fight like fire itself," said another. The elder closed his eyes, his voice a broken whisper. "I told them, I warned them. The fire would spread, the fire would consume." And it had. The Coalition, once feared across the galaxy, now trembled. Their fleets were broken, their armies scattered, their pride shattered, and humanity stood tall, not as conquerors, not as tyrants, but as survivors who had become something more. Something the galaxy had never seen. Something no empire could control. The firestorms of war had begun, and they would not end until every empire that had raised its hand against humans was ash. The firestorms of Vega Prime had not faded when the galaxy learned the truth. The Coalition, the mighty force that had ruled the stars for thousands of years, had been broken, not by another ancient empire, not by a race with endless fleets, but by humans, a species once mocked as young and fragile. The news spread across worlds faster than light, and with it came fear on distant planets. Alien civilians whispered in the streets. "Have you heard? The humans shattered the great fleet. They say one human ship destroyed 20 in a single battle. They say entire armies burned because humans would not kneel." Every whisper spread the legend further. Every story grew more terrifying. Within the Coalition's council chambers, chaos reigned. Leaders who once stood united now shouted over each other. Some demanded peace, others demanded more war, but none could deny the truth. Their fleets were failing, their soldiers losing heart, their worlds trembling. The humans had become the nightmare they refused to believe in. Admiral Kareth of the Dralcor Empire slammed his clawed hand on the table. "We cannot allow this to continue," he growled. "We must rebuild, strike again, crush them before they spread further." But Chancellor Vela of the Orthus Empire shook her head. "You are blind, Kareth. We have already lost too much. Every strike makes them stronger. Every scar turns into fire." Her voice trembled as she said it, but she knew the truth. The Coalition was unraveling. Meanwhile, the humans did not stop. They pushed deeper into enemy space. One by one, alien worlds fell, some burned in fire, others surrendered without a fight. For the first time in living memory, empires that had never known fear now begged for mercy. But humanity was relentless. On the planet Draskor, human soldiers marched through the capital streets, their boots echoed against stone once thought unshakable. Alien leaders stood with their heads bowed, their banners torn from their hands. The humans raised their own flag, not as conquerors, but as a reminder that no empire could harm them without paying the price. The Coalition tried to regroup. They sent fleets to defend their borders, but every time they gathered strength, the humans struck first. They did not fight like other species. They did not wait. They did not play safe. They turned every battle into chaos, and in chaos, they thrived. Entire empires began to crumble. The Dralcor Empire, once feared for its iron fleets, saw its shipyards burn, the Jakari, known for their vast armies, abandoned the war after 3 homeworlds fell. Others broke away, declaring neutrality, refusing to lose more blood against humans. The Coalition, once united, was now a shadow of itself, and yet the humans did not celebrate. On Earth, leaders looked at the reports with heavy hearts. They knew the war was not over. They knew prideful empires would still rise, still try to strike, so they pressed on, not with joy, but with determination. Commander Reyes stood in the ruins of another captured city. Her armor was scarred. Her soldiers exhausted, but her eyes burned with fire. "This is not victory," she told her troops. "This is survival. This is justice. This is the price they must pay until they understand." Her soldiers nodded. They did not fight for conquest. They fought because they had been forced to. They fought because they refused to bow. In the shadows of his prison, the old alien elder listened again. The guard spoke in hushed tones. "They say the Jakari have surrendered. They say the Dralcor worlds are burning." The elder smiled through his broken teeth. "I warned them, I told them, but pride blinded them. Now their empires fall to ash." The galaxy began to change. Neutral empires looked at humans with both fear and respect. Some offered alliances, others sent tribute. No one wanted to become the next enemy, for they had seen what happened to those who dared raise their hand against humanity, but the humans were not blind. They knew the galaxy did not love them. They knew whispers still called them dangerous, reckless, even monstrous. Yet they did not care. All they wanted was peace. And if peace could only come through fire, then so be it. By the end of the year, half the coalition's strength was gone. Entire fleets destroyed, armies scattered, empires broken. The war that was supposed to last months had become a storm of years, and through it all, humanity only grew stronger, their fleets faster, their soldiers harder, their spirit unbreakable. The Coalition Council, once filled with laughter and arrogance, was now silent. The proud leaders who had once declared war now sat with shadows in their eyes. They knew the truth. They could not win, not against a species that turned death into victory, not against a species that refused to kneel. And still, the humans came, marching across the stars, carrying the fire with them, until the name of the coalition itself became a curse, until empires that had lasted for ages were nothing more than ash. The galaxy had changed. Worlds once ruled by arrogance now lay silent in ash. The coalition, once the most feared force in the stars, was broken, its fleets destroyed, its armies scattered, its empires trembling in fear, and at the center of it all stood humanity. From the first strike on a lonely outpost to the burning skies of Vega Prime, the humans had shown the truth. They would not surrender. They would not kneel. They would fight until every empire that rose against them was dust. Now the war neared its end, and the galaxy waited to see what the humans would do next. The surviving leaders of the coalition gathered on the shattered world of Orthus Prime. The once great capital was a ruin, its towers broken, its skies filled with smoke. They came not as rulers but as beggars, their ships small, their escorts weak, their pride gone. They had no choice. They had lost. In the center of the ruined palace, human envoys stood, soldiers in dark armor, their rifles glowing, their eyes cold. They did not speak first. They waited, and the silence of that waiting was heavier than any weapon. At last, Chancellor Vela, her golden crown bent and broken, stepped forward. Her voice cracked as she spoke. "We seek peace," she whispered. "We ask for mercy." The words echoed in the broken hall. Every alien leader lowered their heads. No more arrogance, no more laughter, only fear. The human commander stepped forward, his face scarred, his voice steady. "You brought war to us," he said. "You mocked us. You burned our worlds. You killed our children." His eyes swept across the chamber. "And you thought we would break." No one answered. The silence was complete. The human's voice grew colder. "You were warned by one of your own, but you did not listen. You thought yourselves untouchable." He leaned forward, his words sharp as knives. "Now you understand. Now you see what happens when you provoke humanity." The aliens trembled. Some tried to speak, but their voices died in their throats. The human commander raised his hand. "We will grant you peace," he said, "but hear this. Hear it well, for it will be the last warning you ever receive." His voice rose, echoing through the ruined hall. "If you ever attack us again, if you ever threaten our people, we will not stop. We will not forgive. We will burn your empires to dust." The words struck like thunder. The alien leaders bowed, lower, their bodies shaking. They knew it was not an empty threat. They had seen the fire, they had lived it. And they knew if the humans rose again, no empire would survive. From that day, the message spread across the stars. Traders carried it, smugglers whispered it, soldiers repeated it, "Do not attack the humans, do not provoke them, for they are fire. And fire does not bow, fire consumes." On earth bells rang, families wept for the dead, but they stood tall. Children played in the streets, their laughter free. For the first time in years, the skies above Earth were clear. Humanity had survived. Not only survived, but proven themselves. Commander Reyes walked through the streets of New Carthage. The people cheered her name, but she shook her head. "This was not my victory," she told them. "It was yours. It was every soldier, every mother, every father, every child who stood and said, 'No, we will not kneel.'" Her voice carried through. The crowd and the people shouted as one, "Never kneel!" In the dark of his prison, the old alien elder heard the news. The guards no longer whispered. They spoke openly. "The humans have won. The war is over." The elder smiled, tears in his tired eyes. "I told them," he whispered. "I told them what would come. But they did not listen. And now their empires are dust." For the first time, he rested, for he knew his warning had been fulfilled. The galaxy would never be the same. Empires that once ruled without fear now hesitated. They looked at humans not as prey, but as equals. Some with respect, others with terror, but none would dare raise their hand again, and so the legend was born, a story told on every world, sung in every port, whispered in every council hall. The story of the humans, the story of the fire that refused to die, the story of the final warning. Do not attack them, do not provoke them, for if you do, they will rise, they will fight, and they will burn your empires to dust.